Switch 2 is here. For real this time. What a week for Nintendo fans. Just an insane blowout of information, both positive and negative. The reception's been crazy to watch. Some of it I expected, some of it took me by surprise. And then, of course, we've got a crap ton of real-world events that is weighing way more heavily than I think anybody expected on a lot of what's going on with the Switch. So I figured instead of going over Switch 1 this week, we're going to talk a whole bunch about all of the Switch 2 this stuff that's happening. I'm going to have links. I'm going to have timestamps in the description for all of my thoughts on the different things, and we're just going to go over all of the stuff we've seen over the past week and talk it out. So, of course, that begins with the Direct itself, which, it's funny looking back, we knew very little about this console. I don't even know if we knew about the built-in mic or anything, really, going into it. While we had a good, ideas and a general, sense of what it was going to be, we were pretty leak-free this time, for the most part, in the circles that I was looking at, which was unusual. Of course, the death of Pyoro is a big part of that. So it was pretty exciting going into the Direct, which of course had audio latency the entire time on the American stream. Thank you, Nintendo. Thank you for being ready with that. Whatever. So we started with Mario Kart World, which was cool. Cold open on a game. I didn't know if we would expect that on a console-focused Direct, but straight into Mario Kart. And right off the bat, I thought it looked fantastic. The new art styles paying off in dividends. The characters are obviously way more expressive. The treehouse footage has all of the characters doing some amazing stupid dances. The karts are so much more bouncy to watch, and watching them move. We're back to single karts, thank God. I hate the customized karts just because it always takes so long when you're in a group setting watching everybody customize it. The characters, oh my God, the characters. What I don't know who was choosing them, but I love them. Just because it feels like one of those fan mods where they just kind of grab 3D models and then swap them into the chair without thinking too much about how well it fits. I think there's some footage of Coin Coffer on Treehouse where he's just clipping into the steering wheel the whole time. And it doesn't look great, but also that means we get Coin Coffer as a character, and maybe I'm willing to make that trade-off. There's obviously some really fun gameplay innovation, moving away from anti-gravity and more towards a skill expression kind of deal, with rail grinding, jumping from rail to rail on different tracks. There's multi-tricking going off the walls. There's so much stuff. The multi-tricking makes me laugh because Sonic was also had that, which they showed off earlier this year, Sonic Cross Worlds. There's a lot more to do in a race than hold down the gas and drift occasionally, which makes me excited because I think we have been doing that for a long time, and any fresh new stuff is always exciting. New items, whatever. The one big caveat I think to a lot of the gameplay that people are seeing though is that the tracks might be a little bit boring. Actually, not the tracks themselves, but the drive from one area to the next. There's a lot of footage of the Grand Prix from the treehouse, and the tracks themselves I think look great. All of the tracks look super inviting. They look crazy new. That one big one with the block that's in the trailer, I'm fascinated by that. The Boo movie studio where you go inside of the film, you drive into the projector and then you're part of the movie. That looks amazing. I think the actual 3-lap tracks look great, but anytime you're caught driving from one track to the other through the open world, I think those sections there's still something not really there. They're pretty wide most of the time, and then they're pretty generic most of the time, where a track would usually have a theme or something to build itself around for you to look at or to build around. These are just kind of you're driving through cliffs, so you're going, much like how a road trip you can only see so many plains before you're yeah, this is pretty, but it's just plains. I worry about that being an issue here too, especially since when you're doing that Grand Prix mode and you're going from track to track and you're racing, you just kind of when you're racing to the next track, it's separated into 3 laps, and 2 of those laps are the time you spend going to the next track, and then you only ride 1 lap on the actual track. So I wonder how boring that's going to be. I think there was already a setting you could see during the treehouse that you could toggle it on or off, so if you just want to do it the same way it used to be, that's fine. And honestly, I think the tracks still look great, so it could be still a completely normal Mario Kart experience if you want that. I think there's still obviously a lot more hiding, especially in that free roam mode. We're getting that direct next week, so I'm not gonna bother worrying about how much content is in this game yet until we're like post that direct and we know everything we're gonna get, characters, whatever. There are some missing characters that kind of baffle me, specifically Funky and Diddy. Like, those are free wins for Nintendo. Why aren't they here? But I do think the roster is crazy enough that even without them, I'd be pretty happy. So Mario Kart, I think, was a really strong start. It was very obvious that, yeah, it's going to be a completely new experience, and I think it was a really great way to start the presentation. Of course, there's a big asterisk to all of that I'll go over later. But the game itself, I think, looked great. I'm very excited to see more from it, and I'm not too worried yet. I think after we see this Mario Kart Direct, then I'll start getting scared if things aren't lining up. But for now, I think we had a really strong start, and I'm very excited to see more. So then we jumped into the Direct. We met our 3 leaders for the day. And right off the bat, we're just going to talk about the console here for a while. And of course, right away, we jumped straight into the big question, which was the C button, which was revealed to be game chat. This was a disappointment to me. The game chat is effectively Nintendo Discord, or some way to like invite your friends into a chat room, share your screen, talk, use that new camera attachment, and that's it. So the highlight and the like choice to focus on it in the presentation makes sense because Nintendo was like the only like console that didn't have this. There's been Xbox parties forever, PlayStation lobbies or something. I don't know. I don't have a PlayStation, but I know the systems have been there for a really long time. So, I mean, it was inevitable that it would come to Nintendo. I just don't really understand the like focus in making it a button itself, purely because those other console manufacturers don't use a button. They have like share buttons, but that's more for social media. And also, this is a feature that's going to require a subscription after a year. So we have a button that, like, who knows what's going to happen if you don't have the subscription. It's just a weird thing to focus on, in my opinion. I would have rather this been something more universal that everybody could use at any time. Like, now the poor second Joy-Con, the person who gets the right Joy-Con, it already was the worst one of the two to hold. They also have to deal with a second button being on there. I don't know. It didn't really make sense to me. I wasn't ready for the way they chose to do that. So then they jumped into another new feature, which I thought was a great feature, is Game Share. The ability to share certain titles, like make it into local play without them owning physical cartridges for that game. So the example they used is 51 Worldwide Clubhouse Games. I think that's the name. I love that game. I think it's awesome that was the one they used, and it's a great example purely because it has all of those card games. So like Uno and trying to hide your cards from other people. It's a fantastic example of that. Apparently games are going to need like a specific update to make this work. So like, I don't know what the supported games are going to look like. The ones they listed during the presentation was like 3D World, Clubhouse Games, Big Brain Academy, which are all fantastic and are great applications of this. The only one that worries me a little bit is I'd like Mario Kart 8 to be on there. I think that'd be smart because everybody owns it already. You're not going to sell anymore too because that new one's coming out. So I think that'd be a great addition to that list. But this is a cool feature. I think it's a pretty good way to get around the excuse of like having to buy like each person has to buy a $60 cartridge. So now that's not a requirement. Great accessibility change. Honestly, not something I would expect from Nintendo in general. Welcome back, Download Play. It's good to have you back. And then we jumped into the tech segment, which surprised me just because Nintendo usually doesn't really care that much. The Switch 2017 presentation, of course, was kind of just like, yeah, like it's a 720p screen, you can play games on it. And that was kind of it. This time, they jumped into it, which is, so first of all, we got a 1080p HDR LCD screen. No OLED, didn't surprise me. I don't think I expected OLED at all, and OLED isn't necessary. It looks fantastic, but realistically, I think any screen you look at long enough, and as long as it doesn't look terrible, you kind of acclimate to it pretty well. So if this was to reduce console costs, I think that was fine. It didn't really surprise me. And also, we got 1080p, which did surprise me, and it's nice to have. Just higher resolution. I usually can't tell the difference as long as the game or the experience is manufactured for that. Like, frame rate, I'm fine with like fixed frame rates of 60, 30, or whatever, as long as they're fixed and they're built for those frame rates. And so 1080p, it's nice to have though. nice and clear images. 120 hertz refresh rate. Speaking of frame rate, holy crap, I didn't expect that at all. That's a lot. Great, but sure. I mean, I'm not a frame rate person, so to me, it's kind of just like extra stuff. But cool for people who want it. I'm glad they're doing this tech-focused stuff because a lot of my friends and a lot of the people in my generation that I've talked to are very focused on frame rate and stuff like that, especially because of the rise of PC gaming. PC gaming just continues to grow. I think most people are just buying PCs if they want to play anything that's not an exclusive. So it's good to have all of these tech buzzwords. And then, of course, we jumped into the mouse controls. Yes! Oh, I was so worried that like these would end up being fake and it would just be this awful rumor that I'd have to remember forever. I really wanted mouse controls, and I'm so glad they're here. They were already showing them off the way I wanted them to, using them as like a touchscreen alternative, cursor, whatever. It's so smart. And apparently in the developer interview, this was actually suggested by Gunpei Yokoi, the same guy who did Game & Watch, Game Boy, stuff like that, which totally makes sense. It's totally straight up his ally. It's totally straight up his alley. I'm so happy these are here. This is such a fun innovation and a smart way to use Joy-Con. I'm glad we have a reason to use Joy-Con besides the Pro Controller. So yeah, I think the mouse controls are a welcome addition. Very happy they're here. 3D audio was shown. I didn't know that wasn't already supported. Better speakers, which is the same thing they said about the OLED, which I've never noticed or really care about because everybody's using headphones anyways. A lot of internal storage. I think 256 gigabytes, up from the 32 on the Switch 1, which surprised me at first, but then when they explained the SD card compatibility, instantly made sense. I was like, oh yeah, of course, because these poor SD cards are so expensive right now. So giving players lots of internal storage to throw all of this stuff on makes sense. I think the prices on those SD cards will probably, at least as long as global events don't keep tracking the way they are, they'll probably go down at some point in the next like 4 years. So, because right now it's like $200 for like 1 terabyte, which is a crazy amount. But usually I keep like a 400 gigabyte micro SD card in mine. So I'm glad they have the internal storage there. People are arguing, is 256 gigabytes enough? Probably enough for Nintendo games. I don't know about anything else, considering file sizes just keep growing. But for now, I'm glad we have internal storage that isn't 32 gigabytes, because that was super limiting on the Switch 1. So yeah, it was a crazy tech segment. I wasn't expecting that from Nintendo at all, but it's good to see. I'm glad that this is very clearly a console that is technologically evolved and meant to appeal to that crowd that would say, like, why do I get a Steam Deck or a Switch 2? The Switch 2 makes a pretty good argument right now. It's got a lot of tech in it. It's very clearly very capable. And of course, the exclusive games are going to carry that as well. So very happy with the tech in this thing. It surprised me. Again, I just can't believe that Nintendo's focusing that much on that side of the industry. But it's cool to see. So from there, we jump straight into Switch 2 Welcome Tour. This is a really fun idea. I like the goofy, like almost museum nature of it. It's fun to have like the mini games and all the fun stuff that you'd find in like a super interactive museum exhibit in a museum. I think it's really cool, and like, hey, learn about like the tech inside. I'm always curious about that stuff. I don't know how many people are like me and curious about that stuff, but it's really cool to see that. That's great. Oh man, this is gonna be such an awesome pack-in. And then they said it's paid in the direct. Why is this paid? I know it's been said to the moon and back already, but this is probably the one that like, this is the one like price point thing, along with the Switch, some of the Switch 2 edition stuff we'll get to later. That I'm like, why do I have to pay for this? This is so stupid. It would be such a fun and easy win, just like Astrobot was on the PS5. But no, this is paid. For whatever reason, I don't understand. I don't understand you, Nintendo. We are very clearly in success, Nintendo, where things are gonna get pricey, and so it's just like, it's another thing to add to the list of expensive things that Nintendo's got going on. So like, sure, this would have been so good, and it's really funny that in the presentation they said paid too, like. They knew people would assume this is a pack-in otherwise. So why isn't a pack-in? Why is it not a pack-in? whatever. They also went over the new Pro Controller. It's basically just another Pro Controller, but with the C button, an audio jack, and 2 paddles. This is kind of disappointing to me. I think like controllers are fun when they're weird gadgets and new things. The PS5 DualSense I got recently with the analog triggers are such a cool innovation. I'm surprised other companies aren't playing around with that idea more, especially someone like Nintendo. So like I guess like the Pro Controller is officially like the best just because kind of it comes with the paddles and everything. $90, which is like the price point I would expect for that, and it's still better than like buying a Pro Controller from either of the other brands for like $150. So like it wins, but kind of by default, so it's not super interesting, but cool, I guess. I don't know. Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games. This is a very Nintendo way to enhance like games from the Switch 1 era. Of course, it wouldn't be as simple as like put in the Switch 1 box and then you instantly get the Switch 2. It's more of a expansion on what they've already done. Some of the Switch 2 editions introduce like more DLC type experiences like Mario Party and Kirby obviously were, while others are like just kind of a revitalization or like a revival of existing games or enhancing games that are coming up. I think it's pretty smart way to like bring those franchises to the Switch 2 without having to like make a whole nother Mario Party entry or a whole nother Kirby in the Forgotten Land. Speaking of those two specifically, Jamboree looks like really stupid fun. It's peak like goofy Nintendo. This is the kind of like mini games I would expect on the DS that like you play as a joke, and so I'm kind of happy they're here because it shows that Nintendo's still going to do really stupid things. Whenever they have a microphone on their console, they can't help themselves. So it's good to see that's still consistent. And I think the camera crap was really funny. I don't expect a lot of games to use the camera like that. So I saw some people freaking out like, yeah, welcome back Kinect era. But realistically, if Nintendo has access to a camera, do you remember what they did with like Nintendo Land and how it records your face during gameplay during that? Like, this isn't any different in my mind. So it didn't really surprise me, but it looked fantastic. I'm very excited about this. I don't know if I'll play it, but it looks really stupid, and I'm glad families can have fun with it. And then Kirby, Kirby in the Forgotten Land getting DLC was not on the list at all. That game came out 3 years ago now, I want to say. And I guess it's getting more content, which is cool and smart. I don't think Forgotten Land struggled too much with the Switch hardware. I know that the enemies in the background would sometimes run at lower frame rates, but that was the only big thing. But it's cool that it's getting the tech upgrade. And then, of course, the extra level content stuff, which is cool, but Kirby in the Forgotten Land already had a post-game campaign that had to do with revisiting old levels. So it's weird that we're getting a second set of revitalized old levels. Sure, I guess. Whatever. It looks cool. I'm glad Forgotten Land is getting any amount of love, and if it means that like they're building a bigger sequel in the background or something, totally throw any Kirby Forgotten Land love at me. It's better to revitalize something old than doing an old sequel of gameplay stuff that you've already explored in an old game. So that's pretty cool. Zelda, Metroid, and Pokemon, I don't really know. These are primarily tech enhancements for these Switch 2 editions. So better frame rates, better graphics, whatever. The only problem with that is like these are all like quality of life changes. I know Zelda has a couple of cool things like gifting items to other players through the app, the voice memories, the GPS stuff. But these are like at the end of the day kind of like quality of life stuff that I just kind of expect from that version of the game. So it kind of annoys me that now I'm going to go to like a Walmart or whatever and look at the shelf and it's going to be like you can buy either the $70 version of Metroid or the $60 version of Metroid. And it's like, do I really want to, is it worth $10 for those tech enhancements? I know to a lot of people that might be a yes, but again, like I went over earlier, a lot of that stuff doesn't matter to me. So it's just kind of frustrating that they're going to charge more for stuff that I think the games are probably already built around in development other than the Zelda games. It is really nice to see them all running like this. I can only tell these frame rates because I've seen the crappy one. Well, the other ones on the Switch 1. So it's cool to see that these new frame rates. I don't know. I don't know about paying $10 extra, $20 extra for these updates. It's kind of disappointing because I know it's gonna limit the reach of those versions of those games. Anyways, so we got through the Switch 2 edition stuff, including backwards compatibility, which worked about exactly as I expected it to. Plug it in, it's backwards compatible. All of the games work except for Labo from Nintendo themselves. Third parties look like they're having a little bit of issues right now, but that could probably get fixed, at least very early in the generation, or before even the launch. So, going from those kind of Switch 2, Switch 1 edition games, we went right into the next Nintendo first-party announcement. What's it gonna be? What are we gonna get? Drag X Drive. What? So, like, this looks cool as a $10 to $20 game with, like, cosmetic unlocks, some kind of stupid, like, competitive mode or something. I don't know how you charge any more for it, and like my arms look like they'd get tired from like moving the mouses around like crazy like that, like almost like monkey tag in VR or something. It looks goofy. It looks like a Face Raiders experience is my problem, and Face Raiders was free on the 3DS, so why should I pay money for Drag X Drive? That being said, I'm hoping that this is like a Federation Force Blast Ball situation kind of thing, where Blast Ball got revealed at the Nintendo World Championships just as Blast Ball, and everybody's like, okay, this is cool, I guess, what is this? And then it ended up being part of Metroid Prime Federation Force later down the line. I'm hoping for something like that for Drag X Drive, or at least some color or something to this universe, because this game looks like a tech demo right now. I don't really understand the like creative ambition behind it, other than some cool parasport representation. But even then, I don't know how you convince anybody to play this other than like as a joke. So it's fine. Again, like just also as a Nintendo franchise, this didn't exude any Nintendo. This is whatever. So from there, we started our third party kind of like announcement to announcement to announcement, which surprised me. There was a lot of third-party support. Not really a like surprise in terms of how the Switch was doing. Obviously, the Switch was selling hotcakes. Why wouldn't you jump on the opportunity to support the successor very soon after launch? Just because launch window games usually get so many more sales. It was nice to see Elden Ring. That's like obviously the big one. Everybody's all about their Elden Ring. I still haven't picked it up because I'm scared of gaming. Actually, I've beaten Dark Souls 3, but I've wanted to play Elden Ring, just haven't really had the time to dedicate myself fully to an open world game like that. So maybe I'll get it on Switch. Probably not. I'll probably just get it on my PC, but it's cool that it's here. And that's like kind of my sentiment for all of the third-party support. Obviously, I'm not a kid who like only has access to the one console that I have right now, but these will be great for people who only want to buy Switch 2 and don't want to do the whole gaming PC thing. That being said, again, we're competing with Steam Deck now, so these games need to be optimized like Steam Deck has their own experiences optimized for it. We'll see how that looks. So from that third-party segment, we took a little break from the third-party stuff to get two announcements out of the way. First one, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Okay, so Age of Calamity was exciting because the battle from 100 years ago in Breath of the Wild was very, like, talked about. And it's very publicized, like, in marketing and everything. It was a big moment in that game's lore. So seeing Age of Calamity get announced to explore that idea was very exciting at the time. That being said, that game didn't end up exploring that idea fully and ended up being, like, an alternate timeline deal. There's a bunch of wacky stuff in it. But it didn't really fulfill that vision, I think a lot of people wanted to say, where everybody lost and Link goes into the revival chamber only to come out for Breath of the Wild. So I think Age of Calamity felt like a one-and-done deal to me and probably a lot of other people because of that. Like, it was the fun, non-canon version in this version of the Zelda universe. So now we have one based on the Tears of the Kingdom's story where, Zelda got transported back in time, which first of all wasn't highlighted in marketing at all. That was a surprise for when you actually played the game. So it's kind of weird that they're like taking a focus on it when even in the game it didn't feel as much of a focus, especially not a battle. There wasn't really like this massive battle that they talk about as much in Tears of the Kingdom. And also, like, I think we've just had a lot of this version of Zelda. Some people are over it, and I don't really blame them that much. 8 years of Breath of the Wild world. So getting another Hyrule Warriors in this style, I expected a Warriors game if you watched my Switch 2 predictions video. Definitely not a Hyrule Warriors. I I guess, sure. And then they also said on the website that it will be a canon story versus Age of Calamity's non-canon story. I don't know how much I believe that, especially considering if it's canon, then Link won't be playable, and Link not being playable in a Hyrule Warriors game feels like sacrilege. We'll see. I guess that's just kind of the attitude I'm taking towards this. Cool, I guess. I'll buy it, probably, because I do really like this version of Zelda, Hyrule, and all of the stuff attached to it. I don't really know what's exciting about this to the mass audience. GameCube. GameCube. I really didn't think they would do GameCube. I said in my predictions video, but they have been trending, like, so far towards remakes and whatever of this GameCube era. So seeing GameCube NSO was kind of a surprise to me, and also a little bit of a disappointment when Wind Waker was the first one shown, because I would love HD version of Wind Waker. I prefer that one. I know a lot of people like the original too. It's kind of just however you like your cake. I love the original too. I played the original first before playing the HD version, but like, I wanted those. I don't think this is as impressive because I know the Switch 1 was capable of running GameCube games. So having this be a Switch 2 exclusive experience already feel like kind of rubs me the wrong way. And then also I feel like they could have chosen something different that would have highlighted the Switch 2's kind of uniqueness, like something that uses the mouse or something, or like showing off Mario Paint for the SNES. I don't know. This was a really weird announcement to me. Soul Calibur 2 is cool. I just don't see anybody buying the Switch 2 exclusively to play their GameCube games. Not that anybody ever bought the consoles for the NSO experiences, but this was kind of just like oh yeah, that's a cool plus, but I don't know what else to do with this information. So GameCube was kind of like, it was cool, but it was also half a disappointment for me. It was fine. Third parties. So we jumped right back into third parties. This direct, this second part of the third parties kind of highlighted how kind of weirdly paced the direct felt. It was a console direct, so I expected it to be a little bit different than any other normal directs that we've gotten recently. But there was so much focus on other companies. I think it dominated what felt like half the presentation. So like, I can understand why a Nintendo fan watching this kind of felt. I've seen a couple of reactions on Twitter kind of walking away like, yeah, this was good, I guess, but they didn't really get as much stuff as they were probably expecting from Nintendo specifically. But that being said, the first thing they showed in the second third-party kind of sizzle reel or whatever was Deltarune. Yes. I'm very excited to see Chapter 3 and 4 finally seeing the light of day. We've been hearing about it for years now. It's weird to think that Chapter 2 came out in 2021. I remember being in college at the time. I'm done now, but yeah, wow. And then 2018, of course, being Chapter 1. This game has dominated the better part of a decade. And it probably still will, because we still have X amount of chapters to go. So cool seeing Deltarune. This almost makes me want to start a new playthrough on my own Switch 1 to get ready for the Switch 2 version, just for the exclusive stuff that they've talked about. A bunch of other stuff, some more indie highlights in this segment specifically. I know there was Enter the Gungeon 2. I like Enter the Gungeon. I don't like roguelikes. I don't understand why it's 3D. That's the end of my thoughts on that. They showed off Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, whatever the actual subtitle is. Cool to have this portably. Again, you're competing with Steam Deck, so this was technically already portable. But why not announce Rebirth too? It's weird that they announced only the first part of this trilogy and didn't announce Rebirth with it. Maybe they're saving it for when they announce the third part of the trilogy, and then that way they can be like, yeah, play Rebirth before the third part comes out or whatever. Cool that it's here, but I feel kind of, it feels kind of like a half announcement just because Rebirth isn't here to me. Silksong was hidden away in the sizzle reel, which of course got a lot of attention because Silksong news is alarmingly not here a lot of the time. But I don't believe the 2025 release date. They did the same thing in an Xbox sizzle reel like 2 years ago, where they said it was going to come out in the next year, and then it never showed up. So I'm only ever going to believe Silksong once we have a hard date. Cool that it's here. I'm glad you guys can have your little amount of happiness before hopefully crushing reality doesn't set in. And then, of course, we got our final big third-party announcement, the Duskbloods. Duskbloods was a massive surprise for me. Nintendo From Software exclusive. What a whack sentence. I can't even comprehend this. I don't know what Nintendo did to have a Switch 2 From Software exclusive. What a big get in a post Elden Ring world where From Software is like, everybody played Armored Core because it came out of From Software, even though Armored Core is this like niche franchise that I don't think anybody would touch otherwise. It was just crazy to see this company working on Nintendo hardware. And then they did an interview with the developer after this reveal, and then we found out it's a PvEVP game, which unfortunately limits the, I think, kind of broad appeal of a title like this. That being said, that means that this game will probably either become like this weird cult classic, or everybody gets super into it and it becomes this like whole thing that comes out. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm not super hopeful just because this kind of idea, we've seen it like crash time and time again, and I think the industry is widely kind of over PvP games right now that aren't big names just because of how live service has been playing out over these last few years. Cool to see it here. We'll see. I'm keeping my expectations in check because that's all you really can do with a weird like genre title like this. Next up was our second to last announcement, which I know like a lot of people watching this live was like, okay, this is supposed to be an hour long. How are we already at the end and we haven't heard a whole lot from Nintendo themselves? So finally getting like, here's a project from us was an exciting moment. And then it was another Kirby title. Not that there's anything wrong with Kirby. I think it's just we had already seen the Forgotten Land DLC earlier. So seeing Kirby as part of something was kind of like a, So my first gut instinct was seeing a CG version of Kirby in that style. I was like, oh, this might be Smash Brothers, which would have baffled me because I didn't think we were getting Smash Brothers at all. And then, of course, right after that, the trailer kind of transitions and is very obviously Kirby Air Riders. It's cool to see a sequel to this old game. I know it's a massive cult classic. I'm a little worried that it might be the kind of game that people kind of beg for a sequel to, but won't actually play it when it comes out. Pokemon Snap is always the one that comes to mind for me, where everybody was begging and begging for a new Pokemon Snap, and then they finally made it, and then nobody talked about it. So hopefully this isn't the case with that, and I think it's obviously probably not going to be that case, because we got Sakurai directing it. This is Sakurai's project. Really cool to see him returning to the Kirby franchise after so long. Very excited to see what he does with that. I'm curious if it'll end up like embracing the franchise as it exists now, looking at like stuff from Return to Dreamland, Forgotten Land, Squeak Squad, whatever, or if it'll just kind of do Superstar references and that's it. Because I know that's a big criticism with how Smash Brothers represents Kirby, where it doesn't really represent the whole franchise and it only looks at the more recent stuff. So we'll see. With Sakurai at the helm, who knows? Other than it'll probably be a good game. And it's also kind of cool that we're getting a whole bunch of racing games this year, which is crazy. We're getting Mario Kart, we're getting this, and then we're getting Sonic. So if you like goofy characters and racing games, 2025 isn't a bad year to be into that. And then, of course, we got our final announcement. I think the writing was on the wall for this. I knew exactly what it was going to be the second we got our first like glimpse at it. Donkey Kong Bananza. Yeah! I was very excited about this title. I really wanted Donkey Kong to get his time in the light. I'm not surprised that we didn't get a 3D Mario. I know a lot of people were thinking that. I already explained it in my video. 3D Mario, I think, is still a ways out because they were doing this instead. So we have our new Donkey Kong design. I think it looks great. I know some people are concerned about the like scrapping of the Rare design, the retro kind of mentality towards this character. It's very obvious the redesign happened to let him be as expressive as they want him to be. This guy like sticks his tongue out when he sees tasty bananas. He's like smiling. He's angry when he's punching. He's got all kinds of expressions. I think the design's great. And they are still carrying a lot of like rare elements into this title. Right off the bat, on that first, like the first frame of this trailer shows like these enemies with googly eyes, and I saw that, and my heart skipped a beat. I was like, oh my god, Banjo-Kazooie? I knew it wasn't, but I see googly eyes, and I think that. So I think Rare's DNA is definitely very strong here. We've seen some animal buddies in the trailer. They talk about Cranky Kong's there, and he talks about Rambi. It's still in the Donkey Kong universe. I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's very clearly designed by the 3D Mario team, with the way the font works, the way that they're kind of like delivering information, the game design philosophy with the collectible bananas. Also, that's another rare thing they kept, the O Banana. I'm just so excited about this game. I keep watching the trailer again. That stupid fish winking in the trailer. I love trailers that like sync to the music. This trailer did everything for me. I'm so excited about Donkey Kong. And it's like just coming a month after the release. We had to wait till October. That was like a 7-month wait for Mario Odyssey. Bananza's going to be right around the corner. I do think if you're expecting a 3D Mario, don't wait like 2 years and then expect a 3D Mario. Otherwise, you're going to be in for the long haul. Just enjoy this. I'm very excited about it. I think we're going to get a lot more information about it. And then the Direct ended with no information on pricing. We got like a little like glimpse at like the boxes for it and then that Mario Kart pack. And then you noticed like the Direct ended and everybody's like, okay, where's the prices? We'll get to that in a second, but I just want to talk about the Direct overall. I think it was good. Like I said earlier, I think a Nintendo fan going into this might have walked out feeling a little bit let down, because there was so much of a focus on third parties. There wasn't as many like first party Nintendo experiences shown off. I think we'll see more of them. The way this Direct, we didn't get a lot of dates for a lot of stuff. Metroid and Pokemon still don't have dates. I think we're probably going to get another Direct in like June, right after the console launches. That'll go over more experiences that we're going to see in the next year and stuff like that. But overall, I personally walked away pretty happy. This was pretty much exactly what I expected. I'm glad I tempered my expectations in terms of like UI or like adding themes or anything. I didn't expect any of that. The Switch 2 was always going to be kind of still pretty minimal in that regard. So I walked away pretty happy with like a looming like storm cloud over my head with the prices, of course. And let's just jump into it. So pricing came out. The console itself is $450, which to me wasn't really a big surprise. I expected $400. I also expected June. This was about in the range that I expected, $400 to $500. $450, sweet. I'm cool with that. I think the amount of tech they showed off in there, the 120 hertz screen, 1080p, whatever. I think the console's price itself was very justified. And then we jumped into games, and something was obviously wrong. I remember seeing the screenshots like instantly start popping up of the Mario Kart website and seeing the number 80 next to how much the game costs. And then, of course, a bunch of like misinformation spread. Some people thought it was going to be $90. Some people thought like, oh, the digital version's cheaper than the physical. What the hell is happening? The game boxes look ass. Whatever. It was a wacky day on Twitter. People are not happy about these game prices. For me, I think it was kind of an inevitability. Tears of the Kingdom was our last Nintendo game priced at $70, and I think it was very much Nintendo testing the waters of like how much they could get away with, and that game sold incredibly well. So of course, it doesn't really surprise me when I see that. I think 70 is gonna be our standard price going forward. That's how much Donkey Kong is, and a lot of the other Switch 2 experiences I think ended up being. That being said, going from there, some of the Switch 2 experiences were 80, and then along with Mario Kart. So then that's when you get like, okay, this is kind of stupid. So I'm paying $60 for Breath of the Wild, and then another $20 on top of it for the enhancements. What the hell is happening here? $80 Mario Kart? Are you kidding me? There's so many layers to this argument. I mean, obviously the inflation one's the first one that comes up when you're defending these prices, but the inflation one kind of falls flat a little bit when you consider wages haven't been increasing with it. There's just a whole lot. I think my best advice and my opinion on it, like right now, is just vote with your dollar. Me personally, I think I'm okay with these prices because I know Nintendo is a company that like well supports their employees. There's never been like massive stories about crunch or like big like issues in their sector of the industry specifically. Nintendo's very good to their employees generally. They're very positive. Like I still haven't bought Cyberpunk 2077 because of the crunch that they put their developers under. I'm not cool with supporting that. But Nintendo is it's interesting seeing this 80 price tag. It's been crazy watching the reaction, drop the price in the Treehouse. We'll see what happens. I don't think they're going to budge on it. I think we're going to see it happen, and then people are going to buy it anyways because it's Mario Kart. And to be fair, we haven't seen everything from Mario Kart. Maybe it totally justifies the $80 when we see whatever we see next week. I don't think anybody will take any answer to justify that price, but we'll see. Vote with your dollar. If you think it's worth it, buy it. If you don't think it's worth it, don't buy it. If the sales aren't there, Nintendo will lower the price. That's what I expect. So don't buy it if you're not okay with that price. Don't stick with your gut. And then just kind of some miscellaneous stuff that came out after the fact. Game key cards got announced, and sure, I guess. These cards were like illicit. Like they first, of course, spawned a negative reaction because they're basically just key cards that let you download games when you put them in. But then more stuff came out about them. They're supposed to be able to be sold to like as used products, so that way anybody who has the game key card can download the game. Of course, you still need the game key card in the console to be able to play your downloaded game. But I think it's a decent solution to the issues. I think it does highlight the lack of care in the industry right now for like file sizes and trying to optimize consoles for different optimize games for different consoles. The first one that comes to my mind is Monster Hunter Wilds and the whole fiasco that happened with that last month. We'll see. These are like, I don't know, they don't hurt, but they're definitely like just kind of stupid to hear about. So game key cards, I guess. Box art, like I mentioned earlier, it looks lame. The poor Switch 2 edition box arts are like this nightmare of asterisks and text. We'll see how those end up looking on stores, because I know there were some pictures of it that came out that looked better, specifically of Bananza and Mario Kart World, where the box art actually looked pretty nice on the shelf. It wasn't as bad as looking at the JPEG. We'll see. I think they still need a little bit of work. They accidentally showed off Yoshi's Woolly World. I don't know if that's like some stupid like intern accidentally choosing that art instead of Crafted World. I'm not holding my breath, but I guess we might get Yoshi's Woolly World. And that's it. Weird week for a Nintendo fan. It's been crazy watching all of the reactions. I hope things temper down a little bit. It's not the real world issues that are going on right now are not helping even at all. But if you're able to pre-order and you're excited, that's fantastic. I know I'm excited personally. This was exactly what I expected, and I'm very happy to be here for a new console generation. So I'm looking forward to the Switch 2, and I can't wait to pre-order. Hopefully, one day. I was supposed to pre-order today. All right. See you next week.